Hello and welcome to today's video, which is all about the key to stability and what stability training really means. I think it's very misunderstood and most importantly how to do it. Alright, so let's get into it. So the thing with that stability training is often completely misunderstood, neglected and abused, and most people think of planks and core exercises, which really are just abdominal exercises. This is not stability training. I know it might shatter a lot of your current beliefs, but it's not really a good exercise for anyone, and it doesn't achieve anything other than just being good at planking. It doesn't help you with stability. Either is this, all these, just pretty much anything that's an isolated abdominal exercise is not true stability. True stability is the ability to go from a relaxed position to straight away in the blink of an eye have to correct something that's happened that's made you unstable. That's pretty much what it is. So these exercises are static holding and creating massive amount of tension through the abs, but it is not anything that will not help you to improve your lack of stability, whether it's in the pelvis, the hips, the ankle, the shoulder, the head, the neck. All these things don't work like that. The muscles work more on the stabilizing type muscles work more on a split-second timing and respond to reactions, trying to correct constant changes in where your position in space is. And often it's in the standing position that you're going to find the stability issues are most pronounced, whereas most of the abdominal exercises as a result are spent lying down, so already they're not going to help you much. To give you a good example, this is a client who has been working with us for a spinal cord injury, and he lost the ability of his left leg. He had partially paralysed, and it's given him all sorts of trouble with just basic movement, walking around, very unstable, likely to fall over. His problem is not limited to a lack of strength in his abs. For example, he could do the planks, he could do all of these exercises here that you see as Pilates type exercises, which most people regard Pilates as the king of core training, which I'm a Pilates trained instructor. I don't really think much of it at all. It doesn't really, how will that help this guy learn how to stand and balance with multiple joints and things going on in a split second? I can tell you right now, he can do this exercise and it's no trouble to him. It does not help him with his ability to stand and move and walk at all. All right, so the problems with throughout his toes, his feet, his ankles, his knees. Can you see what I mean? Everything is, and it all happens in a split second, and it's in the right place. It's not right, it's constant moving. He needs the stimulus be put in the positions like that and work out how to correct it. Another good example is, and I like to use this a lot, is like when you teach a kid to ride a bike and they've got the training wheels. All right, so like and we've all been through this. You start with the training wheels, you get rid of one, but then you rely on the other one, but you get rid of the other one, and then that very first time when you do that, it's scary, and most people stiffen themselves up, and they'll go back to the plank, and what is this teaching you to do? Stiffen up, or to react and be very loose and relaxed? Because if a kid stiffens up, what's going to likely to happen? He's going to fall off. All right, so all the type of training that people are doing, all this sort of stuff, is the exact opposite of what they really should be doing. And where he needs to relax, if he holds his breath when he's doing this, he's going to be like the kid on the bike, he's going to fall over. He's got to learn to react and respond and feel the changes happening quickly and work out how to, and through mistakes, he's going to have to work out how to do that. And he's going to have to understand where the perfect positions need to be. All right, so stiffening up will only make you fall. All right, so that's why you just don't want to do that stuff. And all joints and all movements are bound by this rule. That's why you see athletes who move really well, can't even explain how they do it, but their stability is awesome. Now, a very important point on stability, it must precede strength training. I quite often see people go from like physio treatment or chiropractic massage, whatever, and then go straight into exercising with strength exercises and skipping the stability stage completely. And you must understand, only a stable body can move correctly, and in the positions to develop the correct strength. Otherwise, you just exacerbate a muscle imbalance and over strengthen an area that's too strong already, which is inhibiting a weak one. Unstable joints are high risk for injury and pain. Right, so you need to make sure that they're stable, and instability, funnily enough, will create stiffness in the body's attempt to stabilize itself. So here's the process we use to help you to understand this. All right, so firstly, you're going to have to work through mobility. So before you can do stability, you really need to make sure you've got good flexibility and mobility there. Without that, you can never be in the right place. Secondly, you need to understand how to breathe correctly, just like we told you before. If you start breathing and stiffening yourself up, it's going to be a disaster. And learning how to activate your inner unit on a conscious level, so that then you can practice it enough times to turn it into an unconscious activation. Using exercises to activate the outer unit and the slings, so learning how to progress to standing positions that integrate the body for the final stage, which is where you're going to start working on reflex skills and timing, which we sort of quickly showed you. You can't skip these steps through the stability key as such. You've got to work through them slowly. At times you have to come back and address them again because you may get sloppy and make mistakes. Right, so let's have a quick look through each one. So firstly, the flexibility and mobility. You can't just stretch everything. You've got to assess the joints that need it, and you're basically trying to get to an optimal range of motion with all of them. If you don't have that, you're going to never get true stability because things are going to be stiffening up, and that gives a false stability, and it's going to create problems in the body somewhere else. All right, so without that, your movement is compromised from the beginning. Common problem areas are ankle, hips, and the thoracic spine. There obviously are more, but they're always the ones we come across that are the key suspects. Breathing, well, you can't stabilize if your breathing's not correct. Your diaphragm plays a massive role in creating abdominal pressure, and so example, if you try and stretch and hold your breath, you won't be able to stretch anything because you're too stiff. When you breathe out is when everything relaxes. So when you're trying to create an instantaneous or lifting something heavy, you need to have that hold of breath to keep everything stable, but you need to know when to let it go. All right, so only correct breathing can activate the inner unit stabilizers, because the key to them is they must fire first. If they don't fire first, you're going to use something else, and that's not good. All right, so you need to understand how you use this on a conscious level enough time to get to the next phase, which is where you use the outer unit. And this is really where the slings come into play, and there's 4 of them all together. The anterior sling, posterior sling, a lateral sling, and a deep longitudinal one. The split stance is where stability problems get exposed. A split stance would be like a lunge position. All these slings are bound by this position, and the reason is because that's how we move. That's very closely linked to walking, jumping, running, those sort of things. When you develop this outer unit, it's the fastest way to improve someone's coordination, timing, and getting everything to work together as it's meant to. Obviously, though, it's always tricky in the beginning, trying to get this right. The last part is where you're sort of putting it all together, and the reflex and the timing. This is where you start to expose you to more progressive type things and positions of real weakness. And all of these ones will always be in a standing position, because it's where all the joints are going to be included. Only in this stage can you really be fully prepared for the strengthening stage. Without this, you're always going to have something not quite there. So some examples are starting from the floor. So these are, I'm working my way up from easiest to hardest. So regressed stability exercises here. Horse stance exercise, great for stability of the hip and the shoulder, and it's contralateral, meaning left hip, right shoulder. Very similar to the walking action and the stuff that you want to do later. Being exposed on here and having reflex timing is an excellent way to start with most people. This basically is crawling, so before you walk you have to crawl. Moving to the standing position and just statically standing still with eyes shut. Great for training the brain and getting things to activate as they're supposed to. The lunge position, this is again preparing you for the foundation movements. You see here the sensor mat, we use this quite a lot. This is excellent for developing great sensory feeling throughout the feet, and moving right up through the entire body. So this is, I highly recommend to use that. Single leg squat is a harder version of that. A lot more instability here than this one. Some people, this is where they get stuck. They might be stuck there for quite a while before moving to the single leg squat. Moving to like more moving type things, so the toe touch drill, single leg squat, but moving like in 360 degrees, so exposes some new things now instead of just in a forward and backward movement. Then bringing into play the slings, so we've got the lunge stance here again. Now we've got an arm exercise, so this brings into play the upper body, whereas previously we were just looking through the legs, the pelvis and the trunk. Now we've got the the shoulder being exposed. All right, so it's a much more integrated movement. Multi-direction lunge, so very similar to the toe touch drill. With a barbell, it brings into play like a lot more instability. It really sort of like putting a spirit level on someone's back. It really does make everything so much harder. This exercise very much relying on mobility of the hips and great coordination to get it right. All right, so quite a tricky exercise. Now once we've sort of touched on that, we move into the faster reflexive type things, and here's a posterior sling exercise. Standing on an unstable surface, working through left leg, right hand, so contralateral in a pulling action. So many things can go wrong with this, but it very much mimics the action of running and walking. You can even see here, it looks like he's paused in a running action. Moving into like a simpler movement pattern, but a complex skill. And this particular device, the extreme balance board, really exposes any imbalance between left and right leg, and moves extremely quickly in all directions. So you master this, you can really got the ability to balance quite well. All right, it's not a circus stunt. We get people in their 80s using this quite easily, but people with stability problems really struggle. Lastly, we move into like a more fully integrated movements such as the Turkish get up, or in this case the lunge and step up, and you can see like the shoulder moving in a vertical pattern, unstable, can't even see your feet, just have to feel it. The trunk, the hip, the knee, everything can break down in this exercise as it can with this one. Great progressions of stability that prepare you for the full much more difficult exercises of strength later on. All right, so you can, now resources to help you, we've got plenty. I encourage you to go to our website, www.noregrettpt.com.au. You can get this functional training. This is a free report, which is one of the chapters from our larger book. But this has a lot of the stuff that I've just shown you there, and it breaks it down with pictures and instructions, programs, everything you need to know. This one just has a stack more, and chapters specifically devoted to injury, for specific ones, back, knee, things like that, hip, even ankle, I think, and even has your sports specific stuff as well. So these are all great resources, plus many other more, and go to our YouTube channel to see videos of other exercises that I've just shown you here in a picture format. You can see them in a video format, and it'll really give you the idea of how you need to get everything done. Alright, so I hope you've enjoyed that, and I'll see you on one of our next videos.